All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. What is going on? I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of Common Sense. Welcome to another members-only stream just for you. Shout out to King Nirvana in the building. Welcome to the party. All right, give me 1 second here. Let me just get the chat and everything set up over her. But shout out to Abba and Preach, who just put out this video 3 days ago, talking about the supposed downfall of Joe Rogan. But I really like the way that they framed it, because the title of their video is Joe Rogan's podcast changed my life 13 years ago. Can't watch it now. And I don't really wouldn't say necessarily 13 years ago, but back around, it was before episode 1000. Joe Rogan was a huge part of my life, and it was, I never missed an episode, all of that. And over time, it's just become a way less important part of anything. Even though he's ironically getting bigger guests, it's not really the same thing as it was. And so let's check out what Abba and Preach have to say, because I really agree with a lot, not everything, but a lot of what they are saying, especially about the old stuff. Yeah, I think that was like the peak when it was in the old studio. But it was in the studio. We were getting high profile guests, but there was a good rotation of like comedians, political people, science people, all that kind of stuff. And as opposed to earlier on when it was mostly comics, and then now when it's mostly politics. And even though I generally agree with most of the political positions, Joe's not really the guy that I go to for that type of opinion. The cultural stuff, certainly, but political stuff in terms of the headlines and policy and stuff, Joe Rogan is that's not really what I go there for. So let's dive right in here. As always, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
All right, you know what? Why don't we take a chance on something? I wrote a single sentence. And I'm like, I think this is a topic. You ready? Joe Rogan changed my life. And it's embarrassing to say that I was ever a fan of the podcast.
So Joe Rogan saved your life.
Whoa. Changed.
See, yeah, that's what's that. So Joe Rogan saved your life.
Changed.
And then
changed.
You want to call him Dad.
I don't want to. Yeah, I knew he was on some bullshit. As soon as that was saved word came out, you made it sound like I was a kitten in a box, and then so you found me at the bottom of a fucking dirt hill.
That's what you said.
So anyways, like I was saying, Daddy Rogan.
Yes, Daddy.
I think a lot of people right now have varying feelings about Joe Rogan. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people love him, depending on which aisle of the political spectrum you lie. My issue or my contention is not so much as the political stuff. I know a lot of people might not believe that. It's more so the actual essence of the podcast and how much that's drastically changed.
And I think that right there is the biggest part, because Rogan always talked about religion, or religion too, but he always talked about politics. And we'll see some clips that they pulled of back in the day when they would, have political discussions. And Joe just seems like a different kind of guy these days.
I used to watch Joe when I was like 21. So that's a good 13, 14 years ago. It's important to give that context, because at the time that I picked up on Joe Rogan, the internet was a completely different place. The idea of podcasts weren't a thing. People didn't even, they used to mock it. They used to think it was really fucking stupid. There was no money in it at the start of it. And it was also a time where there wasn't much information out there, or people didn't know how to access information because the internet was so bare bones for quite some time. So when I first stumbled on it, like Joe Rogan experience looked so different at the time. It was like, so at first it started with him and
Hey, a shout out to our boy King Nirvana with the 15. Oh, I forgot the treats. The $15 PayPal. Thank you. We still got food here. Don't worry. We're gonna get more. You're gonna get a little extra something. Went out for brunch with Papa Lutch and got some French toast. Some French. Oh, we got bacon. All right. Bacon. You want some bacon? Some for you? Come here. You got to do it on camera. Come here. Look at that. No. That one's for me. This one's for you. There you go. One for you and one for me. Thank you. So very, very much, sir. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Very, very, very much appreciated. Thank you. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Very much appreciated. Big shout out to King Nirvana. Thank you.
Joe Rogan experience looks so different. At the time, it was like, so first it started with him and Brian Redband on one camera. It was like a webcam. It was horrible quality.
Yeah, how's the quality? Sound, video-wise? Does it sound all right? Can you see us all right?
And it was just them talking. There was all kinds of like overlays of shit moving. It was ghetto as fuck. I didn't watch that much too much. But
I didn't know about the podcast at that point. I didn't, like I said, I didn't hop on until maybe like the 600-700s. I didn't start paying. I know for a fact that like I was into it in the 900s. I don't know when I started, but it was around somewhere around there, 600-700, episode 600 or 700. So back then, I didn't even know what was good.
The next iteration was the split screen era, and the split screen era was when him, Brian Redband, oftentimes another comic, like 95% of his guests were comics or MMA fighters. Why? Because at the time, that's the only people that Joe really had access to much. Even though he'd done Fear Factor.
Yeah, exactly. He did Fear Factor, and the idea of podcasting was new and fresh to people. And so there was that factor where, he had connections. But in terms of having just like anybody, that was not how this show started out.
He wasn't the kind of person he is today where he has access to billionaires and everything in between. So it's just him and these guys. And I would listen to all these conversations. And what was really entertaining for me is that in the sea of like commercial television, it was the first time that I was just seeing guys just talk about stuff and talk about it candidly. And it made me think of conversations I'd had with people at one point in my life, or conversations I wish I could have on a more regular basis. So for me, it was very insightful. And his approach to a lot of things was like an extreme level of curiosity mingled in with a healthy dose of skepticism. And that last part's really important. So when I'm listening to him,
the skepticism. He definitely still has that drive for conspiracy theory talk and stuff like that. But the overall curiosity on when you hear a thing, do I accept that thing or should I question every aspect about it? That used to be a lot more of who Rogan was.
Talk about, there's one video I'll never forget. It's like Joe Rogan on relationships, and I think it was him talking to his good friend Duncan Trussell. And here it is, just two guys who fucking love mushrooms, psychedelics, and talk about life.
No, this guy was awesome, and he was one of the things he talked about is in some religious tradition how they like hold the scriptures. A rabbi like had his students hold the scriptures over their heart,
and they're flashing a bunch
when they
of these comments here. What are they saying? So Buddha Cat saying, I think Joe is at his best self when he's talking.
Like had his students hold the scriptures over their heart, and
powerful words from Duncan
when they were memorizing them, and they would say, why do we do this? And he said, so that when your heart breaks, they'll fall in. And it's a beautiful idea, which is that heartbreak is actually your ego cracking. And the moment that cracks, you're in the experience of truth. And when you're in the experience of truth, that's when you can really become who you are. This is like something that I like that Ram does.
I love the old Duncan episodes. This comment saying, I want friends that have conversations like this. Every time I try to get deep with my friends, they can't stay on track with the subject or bring up something really shallow. One day. And I experienced exactly the same thing, which is why I started this channel. People didn't like talking about the things that I like talking about. So I was like, fuck it. I'll go and find my own crew. And here you guys are.
Says, which is like, if you don't feel like meditating, don't meditate. Don't force it. Don't impose this on yourself. Keep doing the thing you're doing that's upsetting you so much. Have the balls to keep doing the fucking thing that you're doing. Keep doing it. Society is going to tell you, don't be like this. Stop being like this. You have to change. That's what your parents always said.
You can always relate to Duncan. Dude gives great insight. It makes me feel a little more sane.
Okay. The idea is like, no, sink into what you are right now. Just be that thing. God forgive me because I've quoted it way too many times, but it's better to be an honest street sweeper than a dishonest king. It's
Comments that are really related to this conversation. I dropped out of college recently. There's a lot of people who think what I did was dumb. But I can tell you right now that I feel better as the honest street sweeper than the dishonest king.
Better to be a happy guy brushing fucking leaves up the street than it is to be some zillionaire who inside is dying or numb or miserable. Mostly numb. Numb's the word. Most people are just numb.
But as long as these people can quantify on paper, I still have a X $million home. My car still costs X $1,000. This suit is an X suit. I am still ahead. I am not going to abandon all these things.
As long as they don't see through the bullshit of the game they think they're winning.
And so, like, again, just think about the last time that this type of discussion was really prevalent on the podcast. And, you know, I, as someone who doesn't listen regularly anymore, even though, you know, I do love Duncan, I'm not necessarily going to watch a Duncan episode of JRE because they kind of do talk about this the same kinds of things, but that's as good as it gets. King Nirvana said, "I love Duncan too. He looks crazy. He looks crazy bald, but I'm not shaming. It's unsettling to me for some reason. I just see Kurt on his podcast, and I don't know, just two mirror image. But yeah, Duncan is such a and that's the other thing too about how the core of the show is different, because Duncan still goes on the podcast, but that doesn't bring it back to what it was. And I'm sure that if we went through the most recent Duncan episode, that it probably would be a lot better than most of the Rogan stuff that is out there. But that's, you know, just hitting the tip of the iceberg here.
To fall. Yeah, it's almost like you have to fall to really, that's what you got to appreciate, those moments when it all falls apart on you, because that means you've got an opportunity to try it again. Are you close with your dad?
I had never met my dad, you know,
Wow.
Single parent, you never met my dad. So
yeah, this is a comic episode. If you're not familiar, this is, what's his name? Eddie something, but another comic. And instead of just talking about like, oh, you know, the green room at the mothership, like it's the 250 comedy assassins, bro, it's crazy, like, and just kind of sniffing their own farts, they're having an actual discussion. Hey, shout out to Funk Master General. Welcome to the party. Very much appreciated. With that $2, I forgot to bring Morty's treats, so he gets bacon. Come on, there we go. A little for the overlord and a little bit for me. Come here, pup. Come here. Yeah, bacon, real bacon. Yummy. And some for me. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Welcome to the party. A pleasure to see you, sir. We are talking about how JRE is just not what it used to be. Thank you so very, very much. So yeah, even on a comic episode, instead of talking about how great they are, they're talking about their actual lives. In comments, and seeing two adults talk about life and get emotional actually makes me feel good. I can accept me. And so it's hard to see in hindsight, but we remember that it is I forgot what I was gonna say. It seems we didn't really have conversations like that. Now everybody has a podcast. There's a podcast here, there's a podcast there. You know, there's every type of podcast that you could ever think of. And though Joe Rogan wasn't the first, he definitely was the first to be, you know, on this level. And as you can see from this comment, not something that people were used to seeing. And I think really changed you know, what masculinity is in a good way, adding some emotional intelligence to masculinity in a good way, because it definitely has happened a lot in a bad way as well. But I think in general that was beneficial. So King Nirvana, I don't know if you know this, but PayPal still count towards the sponsor. So you out sponsoring your damn self. Thank you, sir. He said 34 cents more. I am the captain now. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Let's get Morty some more bacon. Megan. There you go. Thank you, sir. Very, very, very much appreciated. He's trying to play it. I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much.
Are you close with your dad?
I never met my dad.
Wow.
Single parent. You never met my dad. So thanks for bringing that up.
I
I'm
don't know mine
kidding.
either. Mine's name is Joe Rogan.
Shit, he's out there someplace.
He's out there. The good thing is it made me realize that you can't count on people, but you can.
And then this comment: the dad issue is real. Don't repeat the loop, gentlemen. And that one hit me when I saw this because, as somebody who is lucky enough to have my dad in my life, I didn't realize how common just a few people, or just a few, I guess if you're a few years older than me, how common it was that your dad would just leave. And again, another issue that people are hearing being talked about by just dudes on a scale like this for the first time. Shout out to Shifty Eyes Shady. Welcome to the party. Very good to see ya. We are tracking the downfall of JRE, or maybe it's not that bad.
There. The good thing is it made me realize that you can't count on people, but you can count on
trust
some people.
issues,
But
man.
I definitely had
That's
trust issues for a long
right
time,
there.
but become someone that people count on and count on people.
That's what you do.
I have a tight group of friends.
Yeah.
Like me and my friends are very close.
I get it.
I would do anything for my friends, and family too.
See, I have there's a certain level of loyalty that I have because of that too.
Yeah. Well, you understand it. Whereas someone
This comment saying the loyalty thing, I think that's me. What you guys said makes sense. I'm so loyal to my friends, but I'm the only one that didn't come from a big family, and I wasn't close to my parents. Again, giving people the opportunity to think about these things and talk about these things in a way that they, may not have ever realized that they even wanted to in the first place. Shifty Eyes said, is it being part of the totally not discontinued Operation Mockingbird? What, you think JRE is straight up part of Operation Mockingbird now? I wouldn't go that far, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. If it came out, how on a scale of 1 to 10, if it came out that this was a straight up propaganda wing of the government, how surprised would you be? I'd be pretty surprised, but not 10 out of 10 for sure. King Nirvana said Joe's dad made videos calling him out a couple years ago. Did you ever see that? No, I did not. Let's take a little side quest. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do this. What should I search? Hey, shout out to Guantec. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you, sir. We are talking about Joe Rogan and... You okay, Mort? Did you just fall down the stairs? I just heard clang. You good? Okay, he's drinking his water. He's alive. He's good. Welcome to the party. Shifty Eyes said, I would say the best propaganda agents don't even know they are propaganda agents. Well, dilly to that. That's a bar. Facts on facts on facts on facts. And so, I mean, if you say it like that, then absolutely. He's become, somebody who is able to be disconnected, but still interested, and become kind of a propaganda machine. But we're going to get there. So let's take this little side quest, see if we can find Joe Rogan dad. Let's just go there. All right, let's see what we got.
When Joe exposed his own terrible father,
my real father was crazy. He was like a psychotic person.
it strangely became a TikTok beef.
You lied about me. Your father. You owe me a big apology.
You'll need a bit of context. Joe was born in August 1967 to Joseph Rogan Sr. and his mother Susan Lembo. As a child, Joe thought his dad was awesome.
Well, at the time, I thought that my father was like a hero. I think every kid thinks like that about his dad, especially if your dad is like an imposing figure.
But at the age of only 5, his parents got divorced, at which point Joe and his mother moved to San Francisco, where she remarried, giving Joe a stepdad. Meanwhile, his biological father, Joseph Rogan Sr., lived his own separate life as a cop in New Jersey, leading him and Joe to completely...
Of course, a Jersey cop. Of course, goddamn Jersey cops. It's Murray level stuff. I don't get the reference. What's going over my head? I feel like I should know what you're talking about, but I don't. Help me out. Gonzaga said Rogan still has it. I say it's more that the novelty is worn off, and there are many more options out there who put out very similar content. Very, very possible. This is basically my position on Skrillex. How, when I was big into dance music, and Skrillex was awesome, and then so many other people copied that style of music, and it got very saturated, and it's just like, I don't want to hear this anymore. Not because Skrillex isn't good, because everybody else is doing the same thing, and it's just too much. Shout out to Dylan Soup. Welcome to the party. I am getting educated on Joe Rogan Sr. over here, taking a little side quest, but welcome. The goddamn Jersey cops.
Joseph Rogan Sr. lived his own separate life as a cop in New Jersey, leading him and Joe to completely lose contact. But as he entered his teens, Joe realized his father wasn't exactly a hero. In a 2015 Rolling Stone interview, Joe explained, "All I remember of my dad," he says, "are these brief violent flashes of domestic violence. But I don't want to complain about my childhood. Nothing bad ever really happened to me. It was just confusing, He was just a very violent, scary guy. After the split, we moved to San Francisco, and that was it. Never heard from him again. This
is such boomer energy to do all of that and then get mad at your kid for saying it. That's the boomerest boomer energy I ever did see. Dylan said Rogan's still prominent, though there's more variety now. Fortunately, he's still on top despite the saturation of the media landscape. Maury, the Maury show. Gotcha. I mean, yeah, he's still got it and still prominent. I don't know. We'll come back to right now. I just want to see what's good with his pops, but I'll come back to this when we finish our side quests.
Further mentioned that Joe really would rather not discuss the topic, made apparent by its lack of discussion on the podcast. For the first 4 years of the Joe Rogan experience, he never once mentioned his biological father. But all of this changed on episode 118, when Joe began to expose exactly who his father was.
All my damaged shit came from my real father before I was 7. My real father was crazy. He was like a psychotic person.
He explained some of the worst things that his dad had done.
He beat the
Like he would be the type to come
he
up
beat the out of my cousin.
Really?
Yeah, he beat my cousin up. He picked my cousin up by his hair. Threw him in. He was a big guy, big, scary, crazy cop from New Jersey. I got to see worst case scenario, someone who just can't keep it together, smacks women, beats the shit out of kids.
Further adding in the Rolling Stone interview, when I was 5, I had a fight with one of my cousins. Punched him in the face over something stupid. My dad pulled me aside and I told him the truth of what happened. He said, "Did you cry?" I said, "No." He said, "Good, don't ever cry." I mean, he was happy that I punched my cousin.
He didn't give a that I was in a fight. He just wanted to make sure there was no crying bitches in the streets. It was intense.
Like I said, that is some boomer shit.
Not great advice for a 5-year-old.
I was punching everybody up.
And it's a good, I mean, this is, kind of a side quest on the side quest, but it makes it makes it very clear why Gen X and millennials view the world so differently because of how drastically different boomers and millennials are. And then Gen X being in the middle, it's like there's still some of that, just toughen it up. But there's a lot more. Again, I don't know why I'm coming back to emotional intelligence again, but there's a lot more emotional intelligence, again, in the good way. And then maybe a little too much with millennials, but it's all the fucking boomers.
After that, I was like, all right, you're getting punched. It was so stupid. It was like the worst way of raising a child ever.
At this point, however, Joe was barely famous, and as a result, his father won't respond directly to the allegations. All he will say is, "I don't talk about people the way they talk about me. That's not in my DNA. What's gone is gone." Despite his father denying the allegations, Joe had clearly been through something.
There's something about like seeing someone you're close to who's an adult beating up like a 10 or 11-year-old. You ever see that before?
To the extent that it changed who Joe was as a person.
Good point. So let's take a moment to think about who has more to gain from this kind of controversy. What does Joe Jr. have to gain from talking smack about a senior? Could be wrong, but Occam's razor. Oh, I completely agree. I mean, the fact that he wasn't around, like it almost doesn't matter at that point. Like, yes, obviously lying is wrong, but if he was from 5 years old, those are the only memories he has, even if they're not right, like they're wrong because you weren't there to provide good memories. And a 5-year-old could very easily kind of spin things up, but that's why you stay around and provide positive examples.
Is there a violent person in there?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of violence in me for sure. I don't know if it's genetic or learned or.
Your mom and dad broke up early on. Is it connected to the dad at all?
I'm sure it's connected to him also because he was violent and it made me feel very scared to be around him. But I also think.
Bro, how mad would you be if you just abandoned a kid and then they become the most famous, not the most famous, but the most famous podcaster in the world? What a loser.
It's connected in who he was as a human, is transferred into my DNA.
In the meantime, Joseph Rogan Sr. had 2 twin daughters, automatically making them Joe Rogan's half-sisters. One of them told
Wait a minute here. What are we talking
Joseph Rogan Sr. had 2 twin daughters,
twin daughters? One of them on Ozempic, I guess.
automatically making them Joe Rogan's half-sisters. One of them told the Daily Mail, I was 19 years old when my father told me about Joe Jr. He was not even famous yet. He was a comedian and did a show called News Radio. We looked him up on the computer and emailed him asking to meet and explained that his father would also like to meet him. Joe did respond, but not kindly. He referred to my father as a sperm donor, so my sister and I backed off and never emailed him again. Joe clearly had no interest in reuniting with his father.
Did you ever want to meet your dad? Did you ever? See, you know what's funny? My mom.
I met him. I knew him until I was like 6.
Instead, using the experience as a learning lesson.
It made me realize that you can't count on people, but you can
And
count
that's
on
trust
some people.
issues,
Like,
man.
I definitely had
That's trust issues right there.
Become someone.
I mean, is that trust issues or is that a realization that it is very true that you can't trust everyone?
That people count on.
But while Joe thought his dad wouldn't see what he had said,
my parents, like regular people,
Your
no.
parents don't listen to the show. They got shit to do.
No, they don't. But if they did, they're boomers. They're full on.
it turns out Joe Rogan Sr. had always been watching. Conveniently, after Joe had made hundreds of millions of dollars, his father and half-sister went public via TikTok.
So for all you Joe Rogan fans out there, Joe's been telling his side of the story for 27 plus years. Now it's time for the original Rogans to tell our side of the story.
The original? What do you mean the original Rogans? You're younger and you're from a, what do you mean? What do you mean the original Rogans? King, so I think his family made the video because they were kind of upset they weren't getting any of that cash. I don't know for sure. There's something I think I remember someone saying at a time. I mean, I mean, we'll see exactly what they. Eric Griffin, thank you. Yes, we'll see based on what they say here. But I can definitely understand why. You know, if you are getting, someone has the platform of JRE and is talking negatively about your father and not treating you nicely, I could understand why you would want to just, tell your side of the story. But I don't actually know what she's going to say. So the original later Rogan.
With Joseph Sr. first calling his son out.
Lied about me. Your father. Tired of it, Joe. Just had enough. You couldn't handle me. 81 years old.
You couldn't handle me. Yeah, he was a child.
You couldn't handle this guy right here. And when you said I beat up.
And he says that like it's a flex. Bro, you're flexing on a 5-year-old. That's your own son. Yikes. Yikes.
Handle me. 81 years old. You couldn't handle this guy right here. And when you said I beat up kids, I beat up other women. How could I get away with that? You lie. We all know you lie.
Gaslighting. How could I get away with that? Yeah, because nobody in the 70s got away with corporal punishment or beating women. Come on.
You owe me a big apology.
Whilst his
Does he though?
half-sister supported that their dad did nothing wrong.
Joe, you were taken away at a very young age. Unfortunately, you did not get to grow up with the man that we were fortunate enough to grow up with.
Exactly. So maybe it makes sense that he doesn't know the same guy that you know and has a reason to be upset.
Kids are fortunate enough to grow up with.
They try to make it seem like they simply wanted to talk.
Come here, sit down, and me and you talk. That's it. I won't tell nobody what was said. I'm a stand-up guy. I ain't like you making up stories so I can make money.
However, money seemed like the more obvious motive.
You got all the money, everything, but you know what you don't have? You ain't got 2 balls.
I love when I see the comments. They just want the money. They want the money back. I have a box, Pandora's box. And if I open it, Joe, things would get real.
Oh my God. Phrasing.
They want the money back. I have a box.
Oh, that's your sister.
Pandora's box. And if I open it, Joe, things would get really ugly.
The video concluded with his father stating this,
Family is everything.
leading him and the daughter to
Oh, now family's everything. After you had another family. I take back everything I said. The money is, that's what, especially if he was watching the whole time. You know, some of those clips of Joe talking negatively about his dad here were way long ago, way before the Spotify deal, way before TikTok. So if this is on TikTok, then thank you. Yeah, I'm with Joe Jr. here.
concluded with his father stating this,
Family is everything.
leading him and the daughter to get mercilessly roasted. Family is everything. The guy who left his kid. Son, now that you're worth 500 million, I want to fix our relationship. His dad was silent for 27 years about this. He conveniently waited until Joe Rogan was the most powerful voice in the country and worth 110 million to come back into his life and square everything up. If it was about blood, he would have been there 50 years ago making things right. Despite the heavy backlash, Joe's family doubled down, stating on a press tour, growing up, my sister and I just had such a happy childhood. I just can't tell everyone enough what a great father we have. God has blessed us, she said.
Yeah, the father that you have. Joe Rogan didn't have that father. That's the point.
My father has never been violent ever. That is why Joe Jr.'s claims are such
You weren't alive when he was with Joe, though, so how would you know that?
such a shock to us. My father has never even raised his voice to us. He is the epitome of a wonderful father.
Again, fuck you guys for not being How I Met Your Mother fans. So, semi-spoiler, if you care, but How I Met Your Mother. There is, so Neil Patrick Harris's character is, the womanizer, always trying to get laid, and, the playbook and tricks to get women to sleep with him and all that stuff. And, part of the show is that, his dad was never there in a very similar type of circumstance. Then later in the series, he gets to meet his dad, and he sees that, again, his dad is just a normal guy. And so when Barney was young, his dad was like out partying with rock stars and stuff. And so in his mind, Barney was always like, oh, my dad's so cool and whatever. So then later in life, when he meets his dad again, he's like, okay, I bet you're going to be cool, right? And he's like, no, I'm just boring and whatever. And Barney gets mad and like storms out. And, he's just like, I'm just like a boring suburban dad. Why does that make you so angry? And Barney's like, because if you were going to be a boring suburban dad, why couldn't you have been that for me? So everything that the sister is saying that here makes it worse in Joe Jr.'s eyes. You're not helping the cause. Dylan said, for someone who talked about backing off after your famous half-sibling called your mutual parent a sperm donor, you seem to be very interested in getting some money. Yeah, right? I thought you backed off. Just one email and we just backed off. Good catch.
However, a podcast episode they did shortly after again portrayed the opposite. Joseph Sr. introduced his son like this.
As he was growing up, what did you notice in Joe?
He was soft.
Soft?
Yeah.
Soft in what way, sir?
He wouldn't get involved with people, and he wasn't a tough kid.
And then proceeded to state.
Fucking boomer shit. Holy fuck. The audacity. I brought you into this world and now you owe me everything.
Soft in what way, sir?
He wouldn't get involved with people, and he wasn't a tough kid.
And then proceeded to state.
Everybody out there, I'm going to tell you straight up, Joe's full of shit. He went to drama school. You can see he's a drama queen. Everything is drama to him.
If he's that crazy at 81, I can only imagine when he was 40. He then accuses his son of being gay.
Joe has sugar in his tank?
I bet on that.
Did you see signs of that when he was young?
A long time ago.
Did he ever show interest in girls?
I didn't see him much since he was 7 years old. I didn't even know he knew when the girl was.
But it was clear that his father was simply bitter.
Hey, yo. I mean, even if it is just about the money, what are you doing? This is that boomer shit. I'm so glad we are watching this. This is that fucking boomer shit. So to be completely honest, I could never respect a guy like Joe Sr. A real man wouldn't come out to the world in such a bitch-ass manner. Even if he was in the right, conveying that in such a weak way only works against you. Misunderstandings should be met with stoicism and not pettiness. There's not a single thing this guy is saying that could ever convince me to take his side. And like I was saying right before we heard all this, it was reasonable to just want your side of the story to be out there. This ain't it. This ain't it. Don't tell me it's one thing to set the record straight. But then again, you could have also reached out in private again to clear the air if that actually was your intention. Yep. This is a numerology podcast? What the fuck?
Since you were 7 years old, I didn't even know you wanted to grow up.
But it was clear that his father was simply bitter.
I think the wrong thing they did was give that number 1 over his head. If you look at his head, it got bigger. His head got bigger than his head.
Despite this, Joseph Sr. still wanted to meet his son, stating, "I'm on my way
You a football fan, bro?
out. I'm 80 years old. I'm in the rearview mirror, but I would like to see him. I definitely would sit down with him because he needs to listen to my side of the story." However, calling Joe out made
Because he needs to listen to my side of the story. He could have at any point in his childhood, and you decided not to be there.
this way less likely, because recently, when Bert Kreischer asked Joe about his father, Joe refused to give the topic attention.
Wait, is your dad still alive? Yeah. Is your dad still alive?
Yeah, allegedly.
Positively, however, it's made Joe a better person.
I watch my kids like I watch them, I talk to them, I communicate with them. I didn't have a good childhood. So for me, it's important to be a good dad. Talk to them, treating them like I'm not just their dad, but also I'm their friend and I care about them.
And that definitely speaks to the differences in generation that we're talking about. That I think it's hard understandably difficult for Gen Xers who maybe didn't have the best childhood to then understand that even though they want to be better, that we as millennials and younger, we don't have that experience of the juxtaposition of how you grew up versus how we're just growing up the way that we're growing up. And so there's an expectation, a boomer-esque expectation of understanding. In the same way Joe Sr. wants Joe Jr. to understand whatever happened, well, I'm your father and da-da-da-da-da, even though that's not appropriate, then I think the same thing happens with Gen Xers who have a chip on their shoulder because of their parents. And there's that chip doesn't exist in most millennials, and it's frustrating to them. King said daddy wasn't there to take Joe to the fair to change his underwear. Joe's daddy wasn't there. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. All right, dive back in here.
There's a certain level of loyalty that I have because of that too.
Yeah, well, you understand it. Whereas someone who grows up in a big household filled with people and the family was always there and everyone was there, you might take people for granted a little bit. My daughter, my youngest, we were playing the other day in the pool, and there was a point in time we were just laughing about something together, just laughing, and I'm looking at her face and she's laughing, and I felt like I was on drugs. I was like, the love that I have for these people is so intense. And it's also, I didn't get that when I was a kid. I didn't
know exactly what you're saying, man.
If Joe just did that kind of stuff the rest of his life, most people look at it as like, okay, it's two hippies just yapping away, and you would move on for your day. But it was really interesting stuff because for me, especially from the immigrant background that I came from, I never heard anybody my whole life talk about introspection. I
just came from I had breakfast, lunch, whatever. But I just came from lunch with Papa Lutch, and we were, having a discussion. Remember, on Thanksgiving, he had a health scare. And so, there's a lot of discussions around that have been coming up. And, as somebody who is very introspective, somebody who has had to deal with just life without the belief in, there's somebody out there making all these plans and they've got it, all that stuff. It's required it's required me to work through those things that, your average person can, not that they have to, but can kind of just push to the side and be like, nope, God's got it. Or, whatever else your belief system is, or just, pretend it doesn't exist and block it out completely. Either way, it's beneficial to, because he's talking about, like in certain ways that, he helps out my siblings and I, and like if he passes, my mom's not going to necessarily be as willing to help. And so like I sat down, I'm like, okay, so tell me exactly what the worst case scenario you think is going to happen. Like, what's the worst case happens. So you die, and then it's mom, and then I'm still working on YouTube, and I'm working. Dog training's not up yet, and like let's say you died tomorrow. What is the worst thing that you're afraid of? And so we're talking that out, and it's not that he didn't think about these things before, but having to articulate them in a full way. And I'm like, okay, let's play that out. So if that does happen, what then? What then? What then? As we go down the line, I'm like, so at any point that we've just talked about, do you feel, Dad, like I'm incapable of dealing with what comes up? And I'm not as like a challenge, like you know what I'm thinking? Like, do you think that you've raised a son who could deal with those things? And he sat back and thought, he was like, yeah, I do. And so like that doesn't mean that okay, now that we have established that, you're not afraid of those things anymore. You're still allowed to have those emotions and be fearful of the unknown and fearful of things that actually warrant concern, but you don't want them to overtake your life. Especially if we're talking about the end of your life. The worst thing is you've lived a life for 70, 80 years and you lived a certain way, and then in the twilight, now all it is fear of things that you didn't think about. So, I mean, I don't know if it's the worst thing, but you get what I'm saying. Just whether it's different culture, different generation, or a combination of both, people like my parents don't have those types of conversations, at least not with their kids. Certainly not.
Came from, I never heard anybody my whole life talk about introspection. I never heard anybody my whole life talk about therapy. I never heard anybody my whole life talk about being incredibly selfless in the way that you approach relationships. Like, these were all foreign concepts to me that were very much in line with I think a lot of the values that I wanted to embody, but I never saw in much of the media that I would watch. As a result, that podcast really opened my minds, and it taught me about a lot of things. And I credit Joe Rogan to some degree because after my father passed away when I was 21, psychedelics were probably one of the best things I had for me to help me through that. And it was very therapeutic for help me to really analyze what I had.
And I mean, even outside of that, like, again, the notion of being prepared to have your mind in a certain way. And let's say you were somebody who grew up in a household that it was very, it was very social. Then, you're already a step ahead, even though, we all have our stuff, but, someone like me or someone like Abba here had to learn those things afterwards from our peers rather than it being ingrained in us as young children.
Going on inside me to help me heal from it.
So to type on that, meaning then when you see that at the Rogan level, it's like, okay, I'm doing something right.
It was very therapeutic for helping me to like really analyze what I had going on inside me and help me heal from it. I had some crazy experience as a result that really helped me kind of move past that traumatic experience. And so I credit it. And it's also the thing that put me on stand-ups and probably the thing that put me on Patrice O'Neal, Bill Burr, and a lot of these other people. And as a result, it kind of changed my trajectory in life from straying away from the military towards more artistic endeavors. And so I credit the podcast a lot of times. And I felt always very proud of that because of the fact that what it did for me was so huge. And I never take that away.
So have you ever done DMT?
Like all of a sudden I'd be trying to prove that I'm not crazy when I knew I wasn't crazy.
Right. So like even here, I mean, I don't know exactly which episode this was. I would assume probably somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 maybe. Actually, I don't even, I wouldn't even be able to tell you. But the peak was when he had the size and the social stature to get on people that you wouldn't otherwise ever hear in a long form way, and he was still the old Rogan. I think what they're about to talk about is spot on. Bondex said, after my dad passed away, the one thing I could hold my head up high on was that I was the one to step up and take care of everything without arguing or freaking out. There's a small part of me that was upset that nobody even attempted to reach out, even for moral support, except for one aunt. But I can always say I fucking did it when none of you could. And yeah, I mean, that's heavy, and realizing that the just like what they were talking about with the Eric Griffin, that even the people closest to you can't necessarily count on people in the way that you hope you can. And we, especially as millennials, there's this arrested development. We talk about getting a big boy job and adulting. And then when real shit happens, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, I am the adult. We are the adults now. And they're the old people. So we're really the ones that keep the world moving. And without Joe Rogan, I don't know if it would be that way.
Be trying to prove that I'm not crazy when I knew I wasn't crazy.
Right. Fast forward a couple of years later, there's a shift that happens, and now Joe's podcast is picking up traction. It's not what it is today at all, or even close, but it's definitely getting more popular. And at this point, he's moved to a studio. It looks like a bit more of a professional setup. Now he's inviting all kinds of people who are experts in sleep, which was huge for me because I have sleep apnea. And it's probably one of the biggest things that influenced me to actually get the machine so I could start sleeping again. Because I ended up learning like just how fucked up it is when you don't get good rest. He'd have people that were like neuroscientists, people that are reputable, some quack scientists as well. But Joe was really expanding. And it was really interesting for me because it was conversations I'd never seen elsewhere. And I was really enjoying it. And again,
and what he was saying before about the skepticism and the pushback, that yes, he would have quacks on and stuff, but there would be more pushback instead of just, oh, I'm going to just listen. And there was always that aspect of, I'll bring anybody on. I just want to have a conversation. But within that conversation, there was a skepticism of, I'm Joe Rogan. This is what I think. This is what this is where I stand. And I'm willing to learn from you and hear from you. But I already have a position where it seems like, I don't know if that's as strong as it used to be. Shifty Eyes, I don't have expectations for anyone, including friends and family. I hear you, man. I wish I could tell you that it should be different. And maybe it should be different. But if it ain't, it is what it is.
A lot of you like, oh, you never saw these conversations? This is 2013, 2014. There was no places that were having these conversations. And it was some obscure TED Talk that you would never find. So yes, you have to give him some level of credit. He was one of the few, if only, people who were doing it and were relatively popular. And
that's why there's such an adherence to, or maybe not an adherence, but a bias towards Joe, or like a hesitancy to write off Joe Rogan because of everything that's come before the things that are happening right now. There's history.
Consistent. And then he would even bring on political people. And Joe, as a self-proclaimed liberal, would have liberal people on, conservatives. And I enjoyed listening to the conservatives, oftentimes more than liberals, because they were more entertaining, just being honest.
Look, here's the thing. Fine. Listen, I'll be honest with you.
I'm kind of retarded. But one thing I respected about Joe in that era is that even if he had a conservative on, he would push back. And he would push back on his ideals and be very vocal about it. And if you don't believe me, look at what happened when Candace Owens went on. She started yapping away about climate and stuff like that, and Joe didn't let her off the hook. And I don't think she's been back on since.
The climate is. I think she's been back, and this isn't about whether we believe in climate change or anything about that. That's not the point here. The point is that Joe did. Joe absolutely did, and Candace is saying this.
Climate and stuff like that, and Joe didn't let her off the hook. I don't think she's been back on since.
I'm sure you've seen this clip, but if it's been a while, look at it through that lens of, would Joe do this today?
The climate is forever changing. Like that's the problem, is that people are making it seem like that's something weird.
No,
it's
no,
not
no, that's
unique.
not. You're misrepresenting the issue.
Look what happened when Steven Crowder came on and started talking about how weed is a devil and all this stuff, and Joe let him have it. It was one of their biggest, spats.
Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that, because that's nonsense. The thing, it was revealed in the WikiLeaks memos.
See, this is what I was saying.
It was,
don't
hold
care
on,
about
don't
this.
interrupt me, you fuck.
But at the same time,
see, stuff like that. I mean, fine, okay, I'll give you when you had Trump on, if you're not going to be pushing back that hard. That's kind of why we wanted you. I wanted him on your show, but I get it. But even for random people, you don't see that fire that you used to.
Shy away from disagreeing with liberals on things that were important. He had
and maybe, I can't think of the last time there was a really prominent liberal that was going on specifically to challenge Joe's recent political changes. And again, maybe I've missed it, but where is that? He seems to have a lot of people on that already agree with him. Even if I agree with those people too, that's not what I went to Rogan for.
But at the same time, he would not shy away from disagreeing with liberals on things that were important. He had Jamie Kilstein. You know what that is?
No.
Short guy, white guy with glasses.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you argue with people other than college students. Not that, I'm against arguing with college students. Like, definitely got to wake those kids up. But, yep, that's what he was looking at. That's what he was looking at. Like, come on, bro. Come on. What you talking about, Willis?
Liberals on things that were important. He had Jamie Kilstein. You know what that is?
No.
Short guy, white guy with glasses. He was part of like a lot of the Me Too stuff, and Joe let him have it. Joe unloaded on the dude.
You know that's.
Oh yeah. If you hadn't seen that one, that's a good beef to just go down the rabbit hole and watch the whole thing. Hey, shout out to Funk Master General with another $2. Thank you so much. Oh, he is ready. He is ready. Look at that. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. And I forgot the treat, so he gets bacon. Thank you. So very, very much, sir. Very much appreciated.
Worse than saying, wouldn't it be funny if someone just him?
That's not worse.
It is worse. Murder's worse.
Way worse than.
Murder is worse than man.
I don't think we had this conversation.
You're crazy. You would rather be murdered than.
Probably top 3 biggest fights Joe's ever had on the podcast.
Really?
Yes. Joe.
It was pushing back on what?
A lot of the Me Too stuff at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. If I remember, Jamie Kilstein was like a hyper feminist type comedian.
Gotcha. Where is he now?
So funny enough, he's changed his tune. But that's a tape for a different day. Remember that guy who does Adam Hates Everything or something like that?
Yes.
He brought that dude, and he was letting him have it too.
So you think that males should be able to compete in the women's division of weightlifting?
No, I don't necessarily.
But they can if they transition.
Well, first of all,
so you would see that Joe would have people from all ends of the political spectrum, but he was always not shy about pushing back. And that's something that I truly appreciate.
That's the first assessment.
Yes. I think I tuned out of the podcast actually before COVID, like 2018.
Oh, definitely before COVID. There is the aspect of like just being like, okay, I kind of get, what Joe Rogan is about. And so, I think this is a common thing. Let me know if you went through this type of progression, but you find the podcast, you're like, oh, this is awesome. You dive in, won't miss an episode every single time. Then you kind of get to a point where, like I said, you're like, okay, I kind of get who this Joe Rogan guy is. It's more dependent on the guest. I want to hear about, I'm tuning in more for the guest. And then, the variety of guests, whether it is good or not, gets to a point where it's like, oh, okay, I kind of get what, you're bringing to the table in general. So unless it's someone specific, then I'm out of here. Bugmaster said, even when Crowder confronts people that say shit about him, he's a big dude and he uses it. Yo, I'd be like, hit me then. Like, I can use my size against you too. You're going to look real bad trying to knock me out. Oh, even against his wife. Bars.
2019, I started tuning out a little bit, and that's more so when the IDW phase started, which if you don't know the IDW is, it's called the intellectual dark web. Okay? Super nerdy. I thought it was one of the gayest titles I'd ever seen. It essentially is Comic-Con for niggas with doctorates.
Pretty much. And I mean, I'm not going to say that I wasn't a fan of the IDW type discussions, but it definitely was like kind of nerdy.
You got a degree, you a big fucking nerd, social reject, come join us. It was like that.
Gotcha.
So you had like Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, I think Ben Shapiro, maybe, Joe Rogan, a couple other people. Some of them have already left, but it was a really cringe movement, in my opinion. But I saw Joe, all of a sudden, a lot of reoccurring guests would start appearing, and a lot of them all leaned to the right. That was like, it was a reoccurring theme, and a lot of them were grifters. Like Dave Rubin, he's not allowed on the podcast anymore. You big, and Joe's talking shit about it. But you would see these people that would start coming on.
What year was that?
It's got to be 2018, 2019. My timeline.
I mean, just to put this out there, I don't necessarily have a huge problem with Dave Rubin. I don't think he's a grifter. I just think he's very basic. He's very vanilla. He doesn't offer much. And so in kind of the Hodge twins, same kind of thing. Like I there's not much substance here. So it's not necessarily about grifting. It's just like, I'm not interested. That's just my personal opinion.
roughly. I think when I really saw Joe, I could not watch episodes anymore, was definitely after the pandemic. And to be fair, I understand why. Legacy media definitely did Joe dirty.
And this is why I wanted to use this to finally be able to talk about this, because I think they're definitely from here. They're breaking down, they've accurately kind of given us a timeline of what was the before time. And then from here, they're talking about how he's changed and why he's changed, giving a good reason why, but not accepting the change. And I think it's a really fair position.
And to be fair, I understand why. Legacy media definitely did Joe dirty with how they covered him with COVID.
Yeah, a drug
has
been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous.
And he was never the same again.
It's just a lie.
I don't think
anyone is. But don't you think
they definitely did him super dirty? But I think that also partially broke his brain, because after that he was never the same. And then podcasts, like every time it'd always just be some spiel about conservative stuff, and there would be zero pushback. Jamie would correct him sometimes. He'd be like, "Oh, okay, I didn't know that." You just move on. I'm like, bro, you just spreading lies for a good 2-3 minutes. You get fact check, and there's no introspection. All this stuff that you'd always encourage. You are not looking at your biases, because in an odd way.
Well, before he goes into that, and I that's okay in the sense that it was never supposed to be a political podcast. It was just a podcast where sometimes they talk about politics. So he doesn't have to be accurate like a news channel. But the fact of the matter is, when you are leaning on the political message more and more and more and more and more, instead of just having those political opinions, then when you're broadcasting these things, then it is a little bit more important to be accurate. Humana said, I used to think Elijah Schaefer was cool. Haven't seen him around much. He's an odd one. He's an odd duck. From what I know, he's just a little out there. Very the worst aspects of Alex Jones without any of the good aspects, from what I understand. Shifty Eye said they lied because the contract said they couldn't push alternative treatment options. Oh, they lied. Left, right, up, down. They put the yellow filter over his face. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as broke his brain, but it's definitely the canon event to the current Joe Rogan. Comtech said, would have loved to seen a full-on roll happen during that argument between Rogan and Crowder. That would have been dope. That would have been dope. King Ivana said, I thought he was gay because his voice, but then I found out he had a wife. Shouldn't judge voices like that. What do you know? Judging voices.
So you'd always encourage, you are not looking at
projection
at your biases, because in an odd way, Joe's the reason why I think part of the reasons why I became such an introspective person. But I feel like he's lost a lot of those qualities now that he's in this phase of his life for the last 4 or 5 years. That's what it feels like when I watch the pod now.
I can understand why.
And I'll say exactly the same thing I said about Bill Burr in the video I did yesterday, that all that is true, but it's also understandable. It's also understandable that you're at a different phase in your life. For Bill, a little bit different, because I was talking about how, he went from being this single guy and how his family really changed him. But just in general, going through life, having these different things, getting the Spotify deal, not having to worry about, anything in terms of the production of the podcast. And then, having all this stuff with the legacy media, it makes sense. It makes sense. So we could say that, we could blame him all we want, but it makes sense to me.
Now that he's in this phase of his life for the last 4 or 5 years. That's what it feels like when I watch the pod now.
I can understand why.
No, I've been talking for a long time. So
the dates corroborate. And then COVID happened, and they really exaggerated everything. They basically lied. So he was doing for all this time this work where he was trying to do the just thing, where you're supposed to see both sides of the spectrum, and you're supposed to see the two sides of the coin and stuff like that. But I've seen this happen a couple of times now, where people from your camp ostracize you so bad because you disagree on one little thing. You're not able to even be you said it yourself. He's the guy that was, introspective. He was doing introspective, and he was asking questions. And let me just question myself, because I'm not sure that we're necessarily. And it's good to ask the questions if we're going to see if we're going in the right direction. And he was a liberal, But those same liberal from his camp was like, nah, bro. They didn't try to cancel him. So yeah, that is gonna affect someone, and I do believe.
Shout out to Ethan Klein, who got canceled from the left by being like 98% in agreement on the Israel issue.
That you're right when you say that something changed, and I understand why it changed. It was so bad at some point how they would try to, like, even the media that had nothing to do, that we're not even talking about him. We're talking about, yeah, he should be canceled. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna say something that is really weird. The way they treated Joe was like if it was the first Andrew Tate. They were saying that he was like his views, and he should not be platformed, and he should not platform. He should not platform these people, and he should not have. They were trying to dictate to him what he tried to do with his platform, just like.
That's a good point. I mean, it definitely wasn't nearly as bad in the beginning as Tate, and I don't think it was ever as vitriolic as Tate, for good reason. But same kind of thing.
Why were they trying to talk about his platform?
Because they were not agreeing. They were not agreeing with what he was saying. They were saying that, oh well, no, that was before he switched. That was. Do you think it was right when he switched?
Yeah, it was when he was doing the ivermectin stuff. That's when everyone switched.
Yeah, but
before then they were not talking about.
But was he wrong?
Was he wrong about what he was saying?
Ivermectin? Yeah.
No, of course not. But the other thing is, remember how either apolitical or accepted by liberals Joe Rogan was. Like, that was a go-to source of, well, I saw this person say this on Rogan, and then out the window. King said, I wish I could rock that Shaw or whatever Preach has been wearing. I can't pull it off. Hey, you pull off whatever you want. Qualtech said JVP just keeps being more right with the advice he tried to give Ethan. He was warning him because he actually liked him. Yep. But sometimes you gotta learn the hard way, right?
Yeah, some of the stuff he was definitely wrong. Yeah. And that's when he brought up that expert, the most viewed podcast he had. And that podcast was a game changer because that expert was on point.
I remember what you're saying.
To be clear, just what they lied about, they were calling it horse dewormer.
Yes.
And it's not horse dewormer.
Exactly
it's not horse dewormer. It's like saying an antibiotic is a horse dewormer if you use it at a certain dose. Sure, but the levels that humans use it for, it's not. So they were lying.
And because I feel like they were a bit on his case a bit before that when the Me Too stuff happened. That's where I feel like they started to be on his case a bit. It was not as bad because I was hearing some people. Oh yeah, I was hearing some people from the left talking about Joe Rogan being the devil and everything and stuff because he was like an enabler and he was like that's
right. Because remember with Chris D'Elia and I think there was someone else close to him. I don't exactly remember. There was so many. And they either were on Rogan in the midst of things or they were a regular before that. That's the Me Too stuff is really when it started, but COVID is when it really kicked off.
What I heard personally from people in my sphere, yeah. So I think they were starting to flip there. It was not as bad as the ivermectin stuff, but I digress. All that to say, I can understand why he's changed. I mean, everything you do something for so long, it's going to change. Even if you look at this channel, it changed over time. We started this channel. We were not even in the room. We were in the living room. We're not even, and the stance or the way that we're gonna attack certain subjects are gonna change, and your way of dealing with certain subjects as well is gonna change. It's bound to happen. I think
but we're not talking about change though. Like we changed. Did our core of what we do change? No. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's why
I think that's a big point as well. That you want people to grow and change in a certain respect, but the core of who you are, the principles that you have, the way that you approach the world, things like that really should stay the same. And again, I'm not saying that Joe is not doing that, but that he's not still that same person. But I think that's the aspect that's missing here, is that he is older. He is more set in his ways. And that is what happens to people. We kind of feel like, like he said 13 years ago is when Rogan changed his life. And it's just, we have to remember, there's still people. He's still a person. That doesn't make it an excuse. And I don't watch Rogan that much either. And I don't take his opinion as in high regard as I used to, but I'm not blaming him for it. Kate said there was a doc on YouTube this morning about Patrick David. You know about him leading a pyramid scheme. A surprise. I don't know why. Yeah, supposedly his his insurance thing is. I mean, he's always been a big money guy like that, and you know, they play with the dancing on the line of the law and all that stuff. That's always who he's been. That's always who he's been.
I said, I understand change. I don't even mind that he's more of a conservative today than he was before. It means the lack of curiosity that I used to see and the level of pushback that I was used to that he no longer has.
No, I concur.
See, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the essence. Like original Joe Rogan fans, the people who were there for a long time, most of them are gone. It's a new crop of fans who have really popped up. And you can tell by the comment section, you can tell by the type of people that are engaged, you can tell by the response to a lot of things. It's a completely different atmosphere. And even by some of the guests that he brings on, you could really feel the change. What was my point at the beginning?
That's the biggest part. The difference in the type of, not necessarily the type of guest, but the type of array of guests. It used to be very wide, and now it's comedian, right-wing, MMA, right-wing, comedian, right-wing, maybe a doctor, science person, something like that. And then, you know, the perception is also going to be that, like, the Terrence Howard stuff, that's also going to be kind of lumped into right-wing conspiracy by people who are not, or let's say people who are on the left. Yeah. PBD is, it's again, why do we like these people? Because we trust him with our money? Nope. Because he gets good guests and asks good questions.
And even by some of the guests that he brings on, you could really feel the change. What was my point at the beginning? Joe Rogan changed my life. And now I'm embarrassed to say I was ever a fan. That's all I'm getting at.
Was that
embarrassed to say you were ever a fan? Very interesting. I'm definitely not embarrassed to say I was ever a fan. I'm just not, I wouldn't call myself a fan anymore. I am a fan of Joe's work, but I'm not a Joe Rogan fan. That's a little bit stronger. And you know, 5 or so years ago, I definitely be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm a Joe Rogan fan. Hey, again, shout out to Funk Master General. Thank you so very, very much for the $2. Let's get Morty his bacon. Yummy. There we go. He's catching up. We got 2, 4, 6. He's about halfway to your he dropped a $15 super chat. So or PayPal rather. So you still only halfway there. But very, very, very much appreciated. Thank you, sir. King Nirvana said, Grontek, that's the thing. I fell for his thing a bit. Now I always have to look at him differently. I mean, I'm no saint, to be clear. It's not even necessarily about that. It's about the nature of a parasocial relationship. Even let's talk about you and I. You know me a lot better than you know PBD, but you still don't really know me. No more than I mean, I guess you know me more than I know you, but like there's still that disconnect that there's a lot of stuff in my life that you just don't know about that maybe if you did, it would surprise you. Maybe it wouldn't, but that's unless it's, you know, some moral, some moral inconsistency of you know, I'm preaching X but I'm doing Y, then it's like, hey, as long as you're here and you're entertained and you're you know, enjoying the content, then that's what we're here for. You don't have to agree with everything I do or say. It's about having fun and learning stuff.
Changed my life.
Thank you
And
again.
now I'm embarrassed to say I was ever a fan. That's all I'm getting at.
Was that last part?
And now I'm embarrassed to ever say that I was true.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to understand, most people's perception of Joe is what he is today.
Yeah, but you fell in love with something that was back then, so I wouldn't feel ashamed of what it was because we're not talking about the same thing.
Exactly. Preach. There's no reason to be ashamed because when you were a fan, he was good. Now you think he's not good, and now you're not a fan. No shame necessary.
Wait, I understand that it changed and everything and stuff. It's like Kanye West. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to be like, I like Kanye West, the old Kanye West, I'm saying that,
it's not like I'm ashamed, like, oh my God, I have to run. I'm just saying, like, it's just something I would never want to bring up. Whereas back in the past, I would have loved to bring that up. Oh, you know what? There's this podcast. I used to recommend his clips all the time. I used to recommend podcasts on sleep, on exercise, knees over toes guy. It was so good in terms of actual just knowledge in that regard. You know, the fact that it is what it is today is not something I decry all the time. I'm not over here like, oh my God, Joe. It's like, I made dues with that 5-6 years ago. I accepted and I just stopped watching it for the most part. So I've already moved on. I also think that now we live in such a diverse political diverse podcast space that you have so many opportunities for you to go watch people and learn things and learn about sleep and stuff, that the void that Joe left has been filled by all different kinds of people. Also,
right, there's going to be a whole podcast dedicated to sleep. There's a whole podcast dedicated to nutrition. There's a whole podcast dedicated to fighting. And so, the landscape is just different.
Thing that definitely changed that I personally think is a big pet peeve of mine is Joe really felt like the everyday person. The way he talked about stuff, the way he advocated for things, and even the people he used to bring on. It definitely felt like that. And now it feels like the Billionaires Club. Like in the last 2 years, I think I've seen more billionaires on Joe's podcast than he ever had in the last 20 years I had before then. And it's just a weird.
And it used to be the fact that if somebody like that would be on the podcast, just like I was saying, it'd be like, oh, an opportunity for him to meet the everyman and see what how that conversation plays out. Just like Trump, when we were, I don't even remember where it is, that video of him working at Trump Tower that one day. And then it was that and something else. And the realization that Trump, despite Trump never being an everyman or an average person, he always understood that he was not the average person and that the average person is their own person, and to learn about that experience. And Joe was the same person, and I don't think he is anymore. And fair enough, but it is what it is.
Feeling now where these people get to come on, okay, get to do their PR spin for whatever they're advocating, from Mark Zuckerberg to Elon to the other banker guy, lie about a lot of stuff. And Joe's never there to have Jamie fact check a lot of it. Joe's not there to like push back on him. He's just lapping it up. And I'm just saying, the guy that I used to listen before would have been highly skeptical of these kinds of people. But now it's just so bizarre seeing him buddy up with everyone who's like incredibly rich. Like, I used to hear Joe always complain about Mark Zuckerberg. I used to hear him roast him. And now he's sitting in front of the dude, and the dude's just lying about shit. And Joe's just like, oh, okay.
The thing is,
that's an odd thing to me.
Yeah, I understand the feeling when you say like, oh yeah, you feel like.
Is it that odd, or is it just frustrating? It's not odd to me, but it is frustrating.
Everyday dude, but the reality is, he's not.
He was.
Yeah.
He was, but he's not.
He's not. He's not. He's not a regular dude. Sure. He don't hang out with regular dudes. So maybe that.
Yeah, and even the aspect of him having that that level of normalcy from being a comic and interacting with normal people that way. Now he's got the comedy mothership, and he doesn't really have to do anything. He's set in terms of his reputation along with the money. And again, frustrating, but not shameful.
That's what happened, or doing the UFC and being all maybe that's what it is. I'm not excusing him. I'm just saying, I'm trying to understand what happened and why it's like that. Maybe it's just the people that, you get to know them, you get to talk to them, and then eventually you're like, oh, these people are not that bad. And you get blinded by the lights, I guess.
Maybe that's what it is. I'm just saying, the guy who was skeptical of government every day, just seeing him lap up what a bunch of billionaires say is just bizarre to me. The whole point of legacy or independent media was to be a countercurrent to that voice. It's like, okay.
It's interesting to see the influence of a lack of. I'm not sure how to phrase this, but the just talking about sitting there with a billionaire as if being a billionaire is automatically a bad thing. Like, that's not a thing that. People of our political persuasion typically think that, just because you have a lot of money, you're bad. It's interesting to see how that becomes relevant. And these guys, they're Canadian, so they're cool based dudes as much as you could be if you're Canadian, but they're Canadian. Hey, again. Said someone in the audience, anybody there? We got Bunkmaster there. Thank you so very, very much. And of course, let's flip his ear the right way and get Morty his bacon. Yummy bacon. Thank you. So very, very much, sir. Yeah, that Canadianism, the Canada in them is apparent with claims like that. Thank you again.
Point of legacy or independent media was to be a countercurrent to that voice. It's like, okay. And now you're like yupping it up with guys who like own media companies and some of the biggest media companies.
What would you say to him?
What do you mean?
What would you say to Joe?
What would I say to him?
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, aside, thank you. I'd probably be thankful for what he did in the past for me. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that doesn't erase the good. You can't erase the good, right?
That's
because
why
I'm
you
a testament.
cannot be
Exactly. That's why this is what he's about to say.
Because I mean, at the end of
That's
the
why
day,
you can't be
it doesn't
ashamed.
erase the good. You can't erase the good, right?
That's
because
why
I'm
you
a
cannot
testament.
be ashamed.
Exactly. Exactly. What is going on in the chat? Someone in the audience needs to learn. That's two. Boom. An important lesson that will help him. Teach me. Teach me. Oh, teacher. Oh, Morty. Oh, Morty. Come here, bud. That's right. Every donation comes with one of these. We've got one of these. We've got one of these. And oh my God, another one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. It looks like somebody is going for the swoggle. One more, and Marty gets his peanut butter. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much, sir. Oh my goodness. We will have to see if that goal is met.
That doesn't erase the good. You can't erase the good, right?
That's
because
why
I'm
you
a
cannot
testament.
be ashamed of what he
No.
did in the past.
No, definitely still not. Because you're talking about an idealistic sense, but people's perception doesn't work that day. It's not because you explain it that people are understanding.
Yeah, I get you.
You know, like I'm pretty sure the people who knew Hitler when he was a kid are probably like, "Oh, he was so cool." Shut your fucking mouth, right? And I don't.
Facts, but like that's in your head. For other people. Oh my goodness. Again. I'm gonna have to go get this peanut butter. This peanut butter. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Hold on, wait. We gotta show everybody. Yummy, yummy, yummy. My goodness. Thank you. So very, very much. Should I take you guys with me? Let's go get his peanut butter. Let's go get the peanut butter. We met the swoggle. Time to get the dog his peanut butter. Peanut butter. Gotta love it. So good. Ready, more? Let's go. We're gonna get some peanut butter. You want to stay there? You can stay there, but I'm getting you peanut butter. I feel like you're gonna want to chase it around. My goodness. Thank you. So very, very much. Ugh. Better fall down here. That'll be the best. How fucking hilarious would that be? Finally, this has been cut for about oh shit, it is fucking fun. This has been cut for about 2 weeks. And he's been waiting so patiently. So patiently. Let's do this. All right, ready, Mark? Good, this way. Yummy, look at the peanut butter. Oh, he's running. Hold on, I got you. He's running. Just look at it. Oh, he's in love with it. Making love, baby. There you go. I told you he hates being on camera. Thank you, gentlemen, so very, very much for helping to meet our swoggle and getting Morty his peanut butter. What a huge appreciation. He is loving it. Ignore the laundry. That will get put away eventually. Thank you so very, very much. Oh my goodness. Why am I out of breath? Just from walking downstairs. Woo-wee! Oh shit! So let's go through. We got our we'll get this for him when he comes back up, because you know he's gonna come straight up here. I'm like, oh, I got more food. So what is the full decoded message? Someone in this audience needs to learn an important lesson that will help him for the rest of his life. King better come equipped if he's gonna fight the funk. Bam, 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 bam. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And of course, sir, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. The Overlord and I could not be more happy. Funk Master General. Thank you so much, brother. Very, very, very much appreciated. This is why we got to make sure we're populating these members-only streams. I was so ready to be like, it was a heavy conversation with Papa Lech. I was like, you know what? Screw those motherfuckers. I'm just gonna go to bed. Nobody's gonna notice. And I was like, no, not for the disciples. For the disciples, I must come through. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? We back? Ah, we're back. Okay. I was going to reload the page. All right. Struggle streaming, but we are back. And of course, Funkmaster General as our stream sponsor, as all things should be. Thank you so very, very, very much, sir. King, better come equipped. If you're gonna fight the funk, let it be known. Let it be known. There is only one Funk Master General. Thank you so very, very much, sir. All right, let's finish this up.
We knew Hitler when he was a kid, or probably like, oh,
What about Hitler when he was a kid? What are we talking about here?
Realistic sense, but people's perception doesn't work that day. It's not because you explain it that people are understanding.
Yeah, I get you.
You know, like I'm pretty sure the people who knew Hitler when he was a kid are probably like, "Oh, he was so cool." Shut your fucking mouth, right? And I'm not saying he's. I'm not saying he's that.
I didn't say shit.
But you get what I'm trying to say? It's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. In an idealistic world, people look at you, but you're still going to get that judgment regardless.
Sure.
Yeah.
You could have said Kanye.
Could have.
Same.
But I was just trying to illustrate the point.
Different.
You got what I was trying to say. For all the political stuff, one of his biggest faults is the fucking, the Rogan sphere comedians. Like what Cat Williams said, Joe Rogan and 7 comedians that were never funny, right?
That would be like me being on Joe Rogan. Joe don't want me on there. I need to be on Shannon. Joe got 6 comedians that never been funny. He want to push out.
That's a fact. But he always promoted them. I understand they're his friends. But these hacks were always showing up and always being cringe and always being. And at some point, it's like, bro, how many times do I have to hear Brendan Schaub's got a fucking special? Dude's trash. Doing comedy for 3 months. Like, why y'all lying to us?
Would you have that replaces that?
I don't watch podcasts anymore.
Where you get your inspiration? And what do you consume that entice you to grow?
I think everyday life is like much more impactful for me now. So when you're a young man, what you lack is direction because you don't know yourself. So how do you know where you need to go? And what the podcast gives you is a lot of information, ideas for you to start exploring, try to figure out like, how do I want to build this road? So you spend your 20s trialing things, changing direction. And then once you hit your 30s and you feel a little bit more confident, then you start, putting cement down, building out the sidewalk. You already know where you're trying to go. You're just moving in that direction. So I don't need to look towards the internet anymore for guidance in that regards. I feel like I have it and I've received it.
I would say same, very much agree. I would just ask if you guys relate in terms of Joe Rogan specifically, but also just in terms of other creators. Do you get to a point, like I certainly feel like I get to a point with creators where I dive into what they're about and then I get it. And then it's like, okay, I have that understanding now. I want to go learn something else from somebody else. It's a scary prospect as somebody who wants to be a mainstay, but we will see. So before we dip out of here, we're not going to watch this whole thing.
Illusion.
A shout out to the channel Podcast Cringe. Why did that happen? This channel covers different, instances and clips from a lot of different Rogan Sphere podcasts. And again, we're not going to go through the whole thing, but just this is a good example of the current view of Joe Rogan specifically.
It's all a fucking illusion. All of them, when convenient, have said the exact same things.
Dragons are real.
Yeah, the guys are back with another episode of Protect Our Parks, and Mark Norman was in fine form, pushing the boundaries of Rogan's wit with his Tourette-style rapid-fire comedy. And if you look back over the 13 episodes of Protect Our Parks...
Well put. It really is. YouTube hypergamy. Buckmaster said, there's a whole world of inspiration out there far better than any podcast. No offense taken. Completely agree.
Each one is like a nail in the coffin of the slow death of Rogan's comedy brain. In this episode, Joe seemed to be the furthest away from his buddies that I've ever seen him. I mean, there were several points where they were just sitting there waiting for him to finish rattling off the same old talking points. And then they jump in and quickly agree, kiss the ring, and collect their paycheck. Well, except for when Rogan went to the bathroom and Shane Gillis said the quiet bit out loud. But we'll get to that a little bit later, because in this 4-hour episode of JRE, they covered so many different topics that it was hard to keep track. However, one thing you can always count on is the customary wankfest over their comedy credentials and how they're the last line of defense in the battle for free speech and expression. Because, burping, farting, and making dick jokes are the 3 pillars of freedom of expression in modern America. Thank him be. I should say, though, that it's mostly Rogan and Ari that wax lyrical about how important they are in preventing World War III. Shane and Mark usually just sit there waiting to jump in with a zinger that inevitably flies over Papa Rogan's shiny head. But we should be grateful for the opportunity to sneak a peek behind the curtains of the comedy mothership green room. It's a very rare sighting to have 4 of the top 250 comedy assassins in one place, all mic'd up and on camera. And just in case you...
I love that. I love that he always uses Rogan's line, the top 250 comedy assassins. He turns it around.
The top 250 comedy assassins in one place, all mic'd up and on camera. And just in case you've forgotten how rich they are, don't worry. They reminded us at the beginning of the podcast.
I remember when I found out how much money people would make doing stand-up, like if they sold out a whole weekend at the Irvine Improv. I was like, that's what I get at a comedy club. What they get at a comedy club is what I get on sitcoms.
A season.
Yeah, no, an episode.
Close.
No.
Shane,
not the Irvine Improv.
What you're doing is a
no, for sure.
A long time ago, no one was doing Wells Fargo. It's teacher money.
Yeah.
Teacher for the year money.
Yeah, for a whole year. Yeah, what a teacher gets in a whole year, you get in a weekend being drunk.
There's a big drunk. That might be a problem.
It's kind of a problem. It's not, though, because it's hard to get there. They can do it, too. You don't like teaching? You just put together an act.
It just takes 14 years to build up.
That's the thing. Like, the reality of comedy is it really takes 10 years to be any good.
You got to grow. You hear that, Jamie?
Jamie grew a mustache. Jamie's looking Mexican now. Yeah, he's good. Jaime Vernon is.
I thought he looked more Persian. But
he can pass anything, brother.
Like a rug.
Yeah. Oh, because you got that long hair too. You look good, dude.
It's like a crazy
ponytail mustache.
Fuck, life's good, huh? And can I just say, Jamie was in fine form on this episode.
And it's just not like there's no substance to. They're not joking about anything. They're not. Usually, even if they're talking about bullshit, they're using that and turning that into the joke. Like I said, Ari is not funny. I think he can be, but I definitely think he's overrated. And his edginess is more his claim to fame than actual funniness. I mean, I did watch his last special; it was funny. I think he's funny, but just not top 250 comedy assassin.
Not only was he looking like a registered sex offender, but he did absolutely zero fact-checking and just let Rogan loose, which was a sight to behold. I'm telling you guys, the best episodes are the ones with absolutely zero interruptions from JMO. But somehow, some way, in what can only be described as one of the biggest copes in Austin comedy history, Tony Hinchcliffe managed to be the focus of most of the conversation, popping up several times over the 4 hours. Rogan kept bringing him up as if Tony was paying him to do ad reads on him, and Shane kept roasting Tony for being an arrogant twink with an ego the size of an elephant. Incidentally, Tony just dropped what looks to be a comedy special recorded at the Mothership exclusively on Twitter. So make sure you check out the link in the description to my Patreon and get signed up, because I'll be doing a full review of Garbage in the coming days. Plus, I've also been covering all the drama with the Puerto Rico joke. As funniest though, it's constantly British and fear-mongering. Obviously, this is, and now he's never, though, get his is the comedy.
Because he said it's a fun time for comedy.
It is a great time for comedy.
Bad time for
I always quote you, Ari, because he said comedy's dangerous.
It is. Tony proves that. All of it proves it.
Dangerous.
Tony proves it. It's dangerous. You do a joke.
Same conversation over and over and over.
You're like, what are you mad at? I was just trying to entertain everybody. This disingenuous thing of like, well, you're trying to make people mad. No one's trying to make anyone mad. You're trying to entertain, but it gets people mad.
Yeah, we don't want to offend anybody. We want to get laughs.
Joey Diaz says one of my many hubbubs. Somebody was like, "But Ari shouldn't have said this thing." Not even the one you're thinking of. And then he goes, "Yeah, but he's our friend in a story.
Yeah,
in a story. That's our friend."
Yeah. If you're not offending anybody, but we're not trying.
You got to get to the line.
Yeah.
You offend 2% of people. Perfect.
Yeah.
Big J is way funnier. There's a lot of people that are a lot funnier than Ari. I wouldn't say he's not funny.
98% are on your side. You're right on the line. Perfect. That's the thing. It's a great time for us. So
It's
it's
a
like
great
you don't want to
time. It's a
complain.
challenging time. All challenging times are great times. As long as World War III doesn't pop off and it doesn't become like the end. It's like we're basically at the Cuban Missile Crisis, but like accelerated.
Imagine thinking comedy is anything other than just being funny.
And so, I mean, you get the point that it's just like they said, sitting around sniffing each other's farts, and it's not the same. And I understand why that's the natural progression. That doesn't mean that I have to be okay with it. King Amana said Shane and Matt are hilarious. And Kurt mixing his knowledge of conspiracies with his humor has been great lately for me personally. Yeah, I mean, I don't really like the setup of the Jimmy Dore show, which is where I've seen Kurt, you're talking about Kurt Metzger, most often. And I just never got a really good introduction to him. But from what I've seen, I really do like him. And shout out to Big J. Yeah, I mean, I'm not so much into the comedy world as I used to be. Like, if I see a special, I'll definitely watch it. But in terms of following comedy and like being a comedy fan, yeah, so he's usually like the number 2 on Jimmy Dore's show, but like the regular political show. But I just it's I don't know what it is about it, but like the way that like he'll have a story here and then he'll just paste the video, the Shane's video on top of it, and it's clunky and I don't like the way that it looks. And maybe that's just me being a little bit prissy, but I don't watch. But yeah, so I mean, you know, Joe Rogan and Bill Burr, 2 days, 2 comedians. They're not the same people they used to be. But who the fuck is? What we should be focused on instead of, oh, this guy used to be good and now he's not good. It should be this guy used to be good and now it's this guy that's good. That should be the perspective that we have on this stuff. And I mean, when it comes to podcasts, your number one, your go-to for entertainment is going to be the one that's most entertaining. And I still think Bill Burr is, you know, top notch in terms of entertainment. Is he the funniest podcast? Certainly not. But, you know, you have like Bad Friends. I never really listened to Tiger Belly, but, you know, Bad Friends is great. In the beginning, 2 Bears, 1 Cave was pretty funny, but that novelty wore off really fast. When Theo and Brendan were doing King and the Sting, that was great for a while, and then Theo was like, ugh, Brendan. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay that it's that you know, pop culture is constantly evolving. I don't think we need to have, oh, this guy's the best and he needs to be the best forever, and if he stops being the best, then it's the end of the world. I don't think so. I don't think so. So shout out again to all of our donations, including the $15 PayPal. We had a Funkmaster running the goddamn show. After that, getting Morty his peanut butter and bacon as well. Thank you guys so very, very much for being here. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for watching anything that you watch, especially thank you for being a member. And I really hope that, you know, doing these members only streams are, you know, what you're looking for. Let me know what kind of other stuff. Like, this is the best place to try new stuff because, you know, we've talked about like that goodwill, and you guys, I have the most goodwill with you guys. And so if there's something that you want to see that maybe, I don't know if that's going to play if I try that for like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday stream, Sundays, and maybe, I mean, you know, I'm starting this new job, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we're definitely going to keep with the member streams. This is a place to experiment. So if there's something new, hey, we should try this. Let's try it here. We'll end on our boy King Nirvana. King said the thing that should be is Rogan still picking people he wants to talk to, and that's why they're there. If that's changed, then I say that's an issue, but no way to tell. I think it's I don't want to say easy, but if I had to guess based on whether he's just picking people he wants or somebody's telling him, I would say that I think he is still just picking the people that he wants. And the problem that Abba is specifically talking about is that the people that he wants is a much smaller scope of people than it used to be. That's his complaint. that Rogan is still picking the people he wants to talk to. And you're right. That's always what the show has ever been. And as long as he's staying true to that, then I agree with you. There's no issue with him as a person. But I can totally understand that when he used to want to pick people from this array, and now he only wants to pick people from this array, why maybe you wouldn't want to watch any more. Wilson's debate from yesterday on whatever. Oh, that's definitely something we could do. Whatever podcast stuff and like dating stuff. Definitely we can get into that. Yeah, remind me. And we can definitely do that for I mean, depending on what it is. That might be okay for a Monday, Wednesday, Friday show. But if not, we can definitely do it for a members only. So yeah, send me in the Discord. I don't have to do the whole spiel. You guys know what is good. But thank you again so very, very, very much for hanging out. It's time for me to take out Morty before come here, look, come. Oh, you have bacon left. Look, come here. You want this? Look at his head. Well, let him eat this, but you got peanut butter on your head, bro. You got peanut butter on your head. There you go. There you go. There we go. There we go. All right, guys. Thank you so much. He's definitely going to have to poop now. So that I will have to do once again. That is the Overlord Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. TheIndianJesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.